previous life. In my past life, Oliver and I always seemed fated to miss each other. After many ups and downs, we finally got married. But on our wedding night, he said he was leaving to do volunteer construction work overseas. He left me behind and disappeared for 10 years, without a single word. 10 years later, he returned, with the woman he had loved since youth, Sophia. We never registered our marriage. We never consummated it. So technically, it was never valid. I'm getting married. It's no longer appropriate for you to stay in my home. Only then did I realize, what I had believed was a tragic love missed by fate, was simply a choice he made. He had his happy family, beaming with joy, moving into a new home, marrying the love of his life. And me? The city bloomed with spring flowers. Yet when I arrived, it was forever winter. This time, I came back to life, and on our wedding day, before it even happened, I disappeared without a word. But at the wedding with no bride, Oliver completely broke down. Chapter 1. Oliver, your little fiancé is checking up on you again. She sure clings tight, scared this phoenix will fly away? Yeah, maybe just tie him down with a belt already. Don't tease her. Look, her face is turning red. I suddenly looked up and met the soft, feminine voice. It was Amelia, with her fair skin and jet black hair. She had a graceful figure. Her sweet, innocent smile made her the goddess of the architecture department. She was also the one Oliver never got over in my past life, the woman he pursued to the end of his days. And in that moment, it hit me. I had been reborn, back to the time before our wedding, when Oliver had just taken his wedding leave to prepare for the ceremony. And Amelia was the woman he would bring back in the last life as his one true love. Now, she was looking at me with a gentle smile. Looking for Oliver? He'll be down any minute. Chapter 2. I stood in the sunlight, dazed and lost in thought. Oliver was already walking toward me with a cold expression. What are you doing here again? He pushed through the crowd and stopped in front of me, grabbing my arm and dragging me to a small path off to the side. I'm having a gathering with classmates. Do you have to cling to me even now? He adjusted his glasses with a look of clear annoyance. Sophia, the wedding is in 5 days. Can you at least give me these last 5 days of freedom? Above us, thick branches cast a wide canopy of shade. Sunlight filtered through the leaves, scattering like gold dust across his face. But in his eyes, there was only the coldness of frost and snow. I looked at the man in front of me, the man I had loved for 18 years in my last life. He was now in his prime, strikingly handsome, elegant and aloof. But who would have guessed how cruel and indifferent the heart beneath that face truly was? I looked away, lowered my eyes, and smiled faintly. Sorry, Oliver. I won't bother you anymore. With that, I turned to leave, but Oliver grabbed my arm again. What are you throwing a tantrum about this time? I've already agreed to marry you. What more do you want? I suddenly turned around and flung his hand off. Oliver looked stunned, but then the look of disgust in his eyes only deepened. Sophia, if you keep this up, we might as well just cancel the wedding. Chapter 3. I took a deep breath. All the frustration, grievance, hatred, and sorrow surging in my chest. I swallowed them all down. In this life, I will return everything he did to me, exactly as it was. So, when I spoke again, my tone had softened. Even the look in my eyes carried a hint of hurt. I'm not throwing a tantrum. I just had something to ask you about the wedding. So I came. Oliver didn't let me finish. He waved his hand impatiently. I've told you before, I don't care. Do whatever you want. All right. Then I won't bother asking you about the remaining details. Maybe it was because I acted so obedient and compliant. Or maybe, some trace of guilt still lingered in his heart. Suddenly, Oliver raised his hand and gently patted the top of my head. All right, I'll come home early tonight and have dinner with you. I pretended to be overjoyed. Okay, I'll be waiting. Oliver gave a small smile, but it only lasted a second before his brows furrowed and his smile faded. I acted like I didn't notice, cheerfully turning to leave. Not until he had walked far, far away, did I slowly crouch under the shade of the tree and let my tears fall, freely and without end. Chapter 4. At dinner, Oliver returned. But he wasn't alone. He brought Amelia with him. In my past life, He had hidden his feelings well. I never suspected his heart belonged to Amelia. But in this life, even before marrying me, he couldn't hold back his restlessness. Amelia, with a gentle smile, greeted each of Oliver's family members one by one. She even brought exquisitely wrapped gifts. She was beautiful, elegant, poised, standing beside Oliver, tall and refined. They looked like the perfect couple. And me? I looked completely out of place. Sophia, this is for you. Wishing you and Oliver a happy marriage. Amelia stepped toward me and handed me a gift. I accepted it calmly and politely thanked her. She seemed surprised by my reaction. Her smile stiffened, and her eyes dimmed slightly. Sophia, go prepare dinner. Oliver's mother instructed naturally, just like countless times before. I set down the gift and raised my hand, the fingers bandaged with plasters. In a calm voice, I said, I accidentally cut my hand this morning. I can't cook tonight. Oliver's younger brother Luis rolled his eyes. So delicate. Just a cut and you can't cook? His sister Abigail chimed in. I think she just wants to slack off. Oliver's mother gave me a glance and chuckled. Sophia's the bride-to-be now. Of course she's delicate. Guess this old lady will have to cook. Then, Amelia quickly followed her to the kitchen. Auntie, since Sophia's injured, let me help you. Oh, no, you're our guest. It's really no trouble. Auntie, I'm just lending a hand. Soon, Amelia came out carrying a hot dish. Sophia, can you take this for me? I still need to help Auntie peel onions. She called for my help like it was the most natural thing in the world. I stood up, just about to take the plate, but before my hands touched it, the plate suddenly tilted and spilled. The steaming hot fish landed all over Amelia, especially on her bare calf. A large patch turned red instantly. She cried out, crouching down and clutching her leg, eyes filled with tears. Sophia, you did that on purpose, didn't you? Oliver exploded with rage and shoved me hard to the side. Chapter 5. I stumbled a few steps and finally fell to the ground. My palm landed right on the greasy fish pieces, and a sharp bone pierced my skin. My forehead hit the edge of the table hard. Oliver carefully helped Amelia up. Then he turned to me coldly, apologized to Amelia. I gritted my teeth through the pain and slowly stood up. Blood dripped from my palm, staining the hem of my dress, bright and shocking. Oliver seemed momentarily stunned, but the look in his eyes quickly turned icy again. Sophia, apologize. Oliver, it's okay. I'm sure Sophia didn't mean to drop the plate. Amelia gently tugged his sleeve, speaking softly to calm him down. Sophia, did you not hear me? I said, apologize to Amelia. And what if I don't want to? Then I'll cancel the wedding immediately. Oliver stood up, looking down at me from above. Sophia, you know my temper. Once I say something, I don't take it back. Chapter 6. Amelia stood behind him. When I looked at her, she curved her lips into a faint, smug smile. I knew she was trying to provoke me. She didn't want me to apologize. She wanted the wedding canceled. She wanted to marry Oliver. In her past life, she had married someone she didn't love, took a long detour, and only after a second marriage did she finally get what she wanted. But this time, I wouldn't give her the satisfaction. All right, I'll apologize. I pressed my lips together, eyes glistening with tears. There was both grievance and fear on my face. And in the instant I apologized, Oliver very clearly exhaled in relief. Though moments later, his expression turned cold again. Don't let it happen again. He took the first aid kit from Luis. Glancing at me indifferently, he said, the wedding is in a few days. Behave yourself. I lowered my head, letting silent tears fall. Looking weak, frightened, Oliver carefully treated Amelia's burns and said gently, I'll take you to the hospital, just in case. We don't want any scarring. Wouldn't that be awkward? What if Sophia gets upset? She won't. It was her fault to begin with. Then Oliver shot me a cold glare. She causes trouble, and I'm left to clean up after her. What right does she have to be upset? That night, Oliver never came home. A message came from an unfamiliar number. He's worried about my burn, afraid I'm in pain. He's staying with me tonight. You should sleep early. Don't wait for nothing. bride-to-be. She was right. I should sleep early. There was still much to do, like dealing with the old houses and shops my parents left behind, and that inheritance left to me. The houses would be handed over to a trusted agent for sale. As for the inheritance, once it was sorted and liquidated, I would take it all with me. Not a single coin would go to the Oliver family. Chapter 7. The day before the wedding. I had to try on the wedding dress one last time for final adjustments. In my past life, Oliver had barely tried on his groom's suit before leaving in a rush. But this time, he actually stayed. Even after I finished trying on the main dress, he was still sitting on the couch outside. And when I walked out, I clearly saw a flash of amazement in his eyes. The waist looks a bit loose. Tighten it a little more, it'll look better, the stylist whispered softly. Oliver agreed. True. Sophia has a slim waist. Tighten it a bit more. But I shook my head. No need. It's more comfortable this way. After all, I wouldn't be wearing it. Whether it fit or not didn't matter anymore. When you were little and first came to our home, you cried day and night. He stood up and walked over, wrapping his arms around my waist from behind. And now, in the blink of an eye, you've grown into a beautiful young woman. Sophia, we're getting married. He lowered his head, eyes filled with emotion, and leaned in to kiss me, but I raised my hand to stop him. Someone's here. I pretended to be shy. Oliver chuckled softly, clearly pleased. Then we'll save it for the wedding night, he whispered by my ear. I looked down and smiled quietly, mockingly. Tradition said the bride and groom shouldn't see each other the night before the wedding. I had no family, so I stayed at the hotel. When Oliver dropped me off downstairs, his phone rang. It was probably Amelia. He looked slightly distracted. I deliberately showed a jealous and hurt expression. Oliver raised an eyebrow. Come on, the wedding's tomorrow. Don't give me attitude over trivial stuff. Then come pick me up early tomorrow. I looked up at him, eyes full of anxiety and anticipation. Oliver seemed pleased. I'll come right on time. Don't worry. And with that, he hurried off. I immediately turned and went upstairs. I did one final check of my bank cards and passbooks, and made a few calls to the real estate agents. Only then did I shower and go to bed. A dreamless night. Chapter 8. Oliver couldn't sleep. Just before dawn, he dozed off for a little while, only to dream of Sophia. In the dream, she was trying on her wedding dress the day before. Every glance, every gesture, she was stunning. Somehow, without him noticing, Sophia had quietly transformed into a beautiful young woman. Her waist was slender, her skin pale. Unlike Amelia, she wasn't tall, but her petite frame was sweet and delicate. She wasn't as thin as Amelia, but she had the youthful fullness and softness of a girl. The dream started to drift into something indecent. It was the first time he had felt such absurd desire for the Sophia he had always looked down upon. He was jolted awake by the sound of his phone, feeling inexplicably annoyed. For a moment, he even thought about postponing the trip, or maybe stay one more day. Wait until after the wedding night to leave? After all, she had loved him for so many years. Wouldn't that be a decent way to repay her? But the voice on the phone instantly cleared his mind. What did you say? The bride is missing? He sprang to his feet, fingers tightening around his phone. That's impossible. Did you check the wrong room? No, sir, we didn't go to the wrong room. The front desk said that room was checked out 2 hours ago. And Miss Sophia's phone is off. The makeup artist sounded like she was about to cry. Oliver's ears buzzed with a harsh, metallic ringing. It took a while before he found his voice again. I'll try calling her. Please wait. But Sophia's number was no longer reachable. Oliver frantically flipped through his contacts, but he didn't know who to call. He didn't have the number of a single friend or relative of Sophia's. He knew nothing about her. All these years, she had chased after him with unwavering devotion. He had long assumed she was someone he could control with ease. Even now, he couldn't believe Sophia would dare to leave him. Oliver threw on his clothes in a panic and drove to the hotel himself. His mind was a complete mess. He ran 2 red lights on the way. As he neared the hotel, he tried calling Sophia again, but still couldn't get through. His heart sank lower and lower. Just then, the makeup artist called again. Sir, We found the bride. It was a misunderstanding. Oliver felt his heart drop back into place. It was as if a heavy fog over his chest had been swept away by a giant hand. He hit the brakes and stopped on the roadside. His voice trembled slightly. "Say that again, sir." "The bride's been found. She said she didn't sleep well last night, and switched rooms at the last minute." The makeup artist said more. But Oliver couldn't even register the rest. He leaned back in the seat, and suddenly, he laughed. He really was going crazy. Sophia loved him so deeply, to the core. How could she possibly run away from their wedding? Even crazier, he had almost believed it. How ridiculous. How absurd. Chapter 9. Before the wedding, Oliver's family had hired someone to analyze their birth charts. Due to certain taboos, the groom wasn't allowed to personally pick up the bride. So when the bridal motorcade returned to the wedding venue, Oliver was already downstairs, wearing a perfectly tailored, expensive black suit, holding a bouquet. But as the groomsmen stepped out of the cars, their expressions were strange, and the bridesmaids, who were supposed to accompany the bride, were nowhere to be seen. Inside the car, the bride sat with a white veil covering her face. Only a faint outline of a delicate and beautiful side profile could be seen. Oliver had thought he wouldn't feel much. After all, marrying Sophia had always left him with some sense of reluctance. Yet for some reason, the moment he laid eyes on the bride inside the car, something rippled deep inside him. A vague, inexplicable emotion began to rise, even carrying with it a hint of unexpected delight. He thought of Sophia. How stunning she looked the last time she tried on her wedding dress. He recalled her gentle eyes, filled with affection as they looked at him, and unknowingly, his heart softened. Aside from career success, a woman who had loved him unconditionally for so many years was a source of undeniable pride and satisfaction. With the bouquet in hand, he walked slowly to the car. His groomsmen, old friends and classmates, looked like they had something to say. But none of them dared speak. The car door opened. Oliver reached out his hand. Sophia. He didn't realize, when he called her name, there was already a faint smile in his eyes. A hand, wrapped in white lace, soft and slender, lightly rested in his palm. He immediately held onto it. But the moment he did, a strange feeling crept up inside him. This didn't feel like Sophia's hand. Sophia's fingers were slightly longer, her hands softer. They fit perfectly in his grasp. Just then, the bride turned and stepped out of the car. Through the sheer white veil, she gazed at him, bashful and shy. But in the instant their eyes met, Oliver suddenly yanked his hand away, as if all the color drained from his face in an instant. Around them, dead silence. Amelia stood frozen in place, first confused, then disbelieving, and finally, eyes red, full of humiliation and sorrow. Chapter 10. The bouquet slipped from Oliver's hand. He turned around, grabbed someone at random, and asked hoarsely, "What's going on? Where's Sophia? Didn't you go to the hotel to pick her up? You didn't even realize you got the wrong person? What the hell were you doing?" His emotions spiraled out of control, his voice rising sharply. "We don't know either. When we went to pick up the bride, only Amelia was in the room. Yeah, we didn't see Sophia at all." Oliver turned sharply, eyes locking onto the makeup artist. "You said the bride was found, didn't you? This is what you meant by found?" "Yes, sir. It wasn't my decision." The makeup artist was on the verge of tears. She was just a hired worker. What could she do? If that woman hadn't promised to take full responsibility, she wouldn't have dared to lie about something like this. She just wanted to get paid. "Oliver, it has nothing to do with her. It was my idea." Amelia stepped out of the car, back straight. Her eyes were red, but her face was calm and composed. "Sophia's gone. The wedding is about to start. I didn't want you to be humiliated, so I came up with this plan. If you want to blame someone, blame me. Yell at me. No one else is involved." As she spoke, her head dipped slightly, and the tears she'd been holding back finally fell. She let out a bitter smile. "I was just too in love with you, and made a foolish choice. Oliver, why not just go along with it? Didn't you always have a thing for Amelia anyway? Besides, Amelia is your intellectual match. Isn't that better than your little child bride? Running off right before the wedding, What kind of person does that? Are you planning to send a palanquin after her? Imagine the chaos she'll cause in the future. The auspicious hour is near, Oliver. You need to decide quickly. Everyone began to chime in, voices clashing in a whirlwind of noise. Amelia gradually stopped crying, her eyes settling on Oliver, full of subtle hope. Oliver stood motionless for a long time. Then, slowly, he turned to face the crowd. Amelia, dressed in the white wedding gown, looked stunning. He couldn't deny it, he and Amelia did share the same values. Spending time together had made him grow fond of her, but he had always known. The one he was supposed to marry was Sophia. In his heart, he had already considered her his wife, even if, over time, he had quietly begun to feel Sophia was no longer good enough for him. Still, he never planned to break off the engagement. He allowed her to cling on to him, without resistance, but never had he expected that he wouldn't have the heart to abandon Sophia, that he would go through with the wedding, even while hiding the fact that he was going abroad after. He had even decided to delay the trip, give her a proper ceremony, a wedding night. If they were lucky, maybe she'd get pregnant, then she'd have a place in the Oliver family. He'd fulfill his duty, repaying her love and her family's kindness. But now, Sophia vanished the night before the wedding. Chapter 11. Oliver couldn't understand it. Where did she get the nerve to pull something like this? Just because he had been getting closer to Amelia? Just because he sided with Amelia over her during that burn incident at home? But Sophia, where did she get the audacity to go this far? Wasn't she afraid the wedding would be completely called off? Or did she think that, relying on her parents' past kindness, she could truly act as she pleased and toy with him in the palm of her hand? Never in his life had Oliver lost his temper like this. He even thought, maybe his friends were right. Maybe he should just go along with it, marry Amelia and be done with it. But for some reason, as he looked at the elegant and beautiful Amelia in front of him, he noticed the dress she was wearing was the main gown Sophia had chosen. Amelia was taller than Sophia, and much thinner, so the waistline was looser, and the chest area looked emptier. He couldn't help but recall how Sophia had looked yesterday trying it on. She had stood in front of him, graceful and curvy. Her figure was slender, yet full in all the right places. He had been truly amazed at that moment. Sophia usually dressed simply, casually, loose clothes, low-key style, so he had never realized, when she dressed up, she could be that beautiful. Oliver, Amelia finally spoke softly, seeing him standing there frozen, but Oliver suddenly raised his hand, tore off the boutonniere pinned to his chest, and tossed it to the ground. Sophia's not feeling well. The wedding is postponed. With that, he didn't look at anyone, not even Amelia. He turned around and walked away. Amelia stood frozen in place, stunned. Gradually, her face turned bright red. Everyone's eyes fell on her dress, her body. Some were sympathetic. Some felt sorry for her, but more were clearly watching, waiting to see her fall. Amelia's entire body began to tremble. Her fingertips went ice cold and shook uncontrollably. Never in her life had she suffered such humiliation, even though she came from a modest background. She had earned her way into a top university in the capital, as the beauty of the architecture department. She had always been surrounded by admiration. Oliver had always been attentive to her, like a loyal puppy. Yet now, this man she had always treated like a simp, had just humiliated her in front of everyone. Why? Why? Amelia yanked off her veil, as tears streamed down her cheeks. She flung it violently to the floor. Chapter 12. It wasn't until I boarded the plane to leave that I finally let out a long breath of relief. The aircraft pierced through the thick clouds, rising higher and higher into the sky. I leaned back in my seat and gently closed my eyes. All the nightmares of my past life, at this moment, had come to a temporary end. I didn't know what lay ahead, but there was one thing I was certain of. After cutting ties with that ungrateful family, my future would only get brighter. When I was 5, my parents died in an earthquake. In the most critical moment, they used all their strength to push Oliver out, saving his life. So Oliver's family, in return, took me in, raising me out of gratitude. They even arranged a marriage between me and Oliver. so that I would always have someone to rely on. But as I grew older, that so-called gratitude began to change, as Oliver's future soared with promise. I, the orphan, became the lucky girl who had climbed up into his family. Later, Oliver went abroad for humanitarian work, then disappeared without a trace. I sold the house my parents left me to pay for Oliver's mother's medical treatment. She was paralyzed for 5 years. I cared for her, day and night, for 5 full years. Then Oliver's younger siblings got married, had children, and just because she said, as the eldest sister-in-law, "You're like a mother," I willingly handed over my parents' inheritance. When Abigail got married, it was me who gave her the confidence with a dowry of 360,000 yuan. When she had a daughter, I gifted her a 60,000 yuan red envelope to save face. When she was abused by her husband, I stood up for her, helped her file for divorce, and personally took her and her child back home. But in the end, when Oliver wanted me gone, it was Abigail who scoffed and said, "We've raised you for more than 10 years. We've long repaid your parents' favor." My brother's entire life of happiness was sacrificed for that repayment. If you had any decency, you'd step aside and give his wife her rightful place. And when Oliver brought Amelia back, it was that same mother and daughter who joyfully welcomed her into the family and silently approved Oliver's decision to cast me out. The truth? Oliver had been sending money back all along. He and Amelia had already lived together abroad, raised children together. Everyone in the family knew. Everyone. Except me. I was the only fool. Milked for every ounce of value I had left, until I died. Sick, penniless, and utterly alone. Thinking back on it all, I could only laugh. If my parents could see all of this from the afterlife, would they regret sacrificing themselves to save Oliver? That answer, I'll never know. But after living 2 lives, I've stopped believing that being good will always be rewarded. Chapter 13. Oliver made countless phone calls, but none of them went through. Every member of the Oliver family had also been blocked and deleted by Sophia. At first, Oliver's mother didn't take it seriously. "Oliver, you are not to go looking for her. What kind of new bride pulls a stunt like this? Such a grand show. She's just playing hard to get, trying to force you to give in. Let's not give her the satisfaction." In her eyes, Sophia was just an orphan without backing, completely infatuated with her precious, pride-worthy son. There was no way she had really left for good. This whole scene was just a temper tantrum. How could she possibly give up such a perfect marriage? But Oliver stood by the window, unmoving for a long time. A deep sense of foreboding gnawed at him. Sophia wasn't throwing a tantrum. She wasn't pulling back just to move forward. She was really angry. She really didn't want to marry him anymore. He thought back to when he tried to kiss her yesterday during the gown fitting, and she gently pushed him away. Last night, when he dropped her off at the hotel, she sweetly, sensibly urged him to leave. She wasn't like before anymore. No longer the girl who'd panic at the slightest thing and rush to him in tears. No longer paranoid about every woman around him. Jealous to the point of suffocating him. She had cared so much. Cared to the point that he grew tired of her. That's why he applied to join the foreign aid mission behind her back. He thought the debt had been repaid. He owed her nothing. He could leave with a clear conscience. He could finally go chase the life he really wanted. But what he never imagined was, the one who would leave first at the wedding was Sophia. "Mom, what about my gold jewelry?" Abigail suddenly spoke up. "You promised me, remember? The moment she married into the family, she'd buy me a whole set of gold. Now she's run off and disappeared. Is my gold jewelry supposed to vanish too?" A sudden thought struck Oliver. Sophia's parents had left her a sizable inheritance, not just properties and storefronts, but a large sum of cash as well. On the surface, it seemed like the Oliver family had been supporting her all these years. But in reality, Oliver had always been vaguely aware of how much money they'd actually used from Sophia's family. Now they couldn't reach her, but as long as her assets were still untouched, that would mean she wasn't really gone. She was just throwing a fit, trying to scare him. If she comes crawling back and begs your brother to marry her, you can ask her for whatever you want then, Oliver's mother said lightly. Abigail still pouted. How do we know when she'll come back? What if she never does? Impossible. You know how much she adores your brother. Exactly. If not for how deeply she loved him, I'd never have approved this marriage. But Oliver suddenly turned and said, Mom, go find someone right now to investigate. Investigate what? Check if Sophia's properties and assets are still under her name. Oliver's mother immediately panicked. Oliver, what's that supposed to mean? If they're still there, it means she's just mad at me. But if they're gone, Oliver gave a bitter smile, but didn't finish the sentence. His mother instantly understood. She couldn't sit still anymore, rushed out the door in a hurry. I'll go ask around right now. Those houses and the commercial spaces, they're not easy to sell off so quickly. Bro, what do you mean? Abigail turned pale. Did Sophia really run off? She had bragged to all her cousins that she was finally getting a sister-in-law who came with money. If Sophia really ran off, her gold jewelry would vanish too. How could she ever show her face again? But Oliver sneered, turning to her. Why are you panicking now? Weren't you always against her? Didn't want her as your sister-in-law? Who doesn't love money? Yes, who would say no to money? That was why the Oliver family looked down on Sophia, yet still clung tightly to the marriage. And him? Wasn't he the same? Sophia had money, but no family. Everyone died in the earthquake, and she had loved him, devotedly, to the point of madness. So marrying her meant everything she owned would become part of the Oliver family. That's why he had felt so at ease, applying for foreign aid work, without a single concern. Abigail was selfish and disgusting, but wasn't he just the same kind of person? Bro, you don't think she really left, right? Oliver's face was blank as he walked out. I don't know, but if she really left, what do we do? Abigail stomped her foot, anxious. Mom already paid a deposit on that new villa. Oliver laughed coldly. Whoever wanted it can pay for it. Bro. Oliver slammed the door behind him, shutting out her sharp cries and ugly sobs. Chapter 14. I moved to a southern city I'd always loved. Back when I was applying to college, I actually had a dream university here, but Oliver chose to go to Beijing, and I, chasing after him, chose Beijing too. Yet, truthfully, this southern university was the one I had really wanted. Now, with all the free time in the world and financial freedom at last, I finally had the means to pursue my own dream. After settling down, I bought a 2-bedroom apartment near the university. After taking a 2-week break to rest, I began preparing for graduate school entrance exams. If I couldn't attend this school for undergrad, then doing my master's here would be just as wonderful. In my past life, Oliver achieved great success, made a name for himself. He returned in glory, reunited with his family, moved into a new house, and married someone else. He was the very picture of triumph. But me? The city bloomed with flowers for everyone, except when I arrived. It was never spring. This time, all the spring I missed in my past life, I would personally reclaim, one step at a time. In the second month after I settled in, Oliver, who was supposedly off to do foreign aid work, suddenly showed up. It was the height of spring. I had just left the university library, and there he was, standing below the steps. He looked thinner, but even in the crowd, he still stood out. If not for that, I wouldn't have fallen so deeply in love with him during my youthful, romantic years. But now, the same person who once made my heart pound, with just a glance, couldn't stir a single ripple in me anymore. I held my books and kept walking forward. Oliver called my name softly. Sophia. Yes? I looked at him, my eyes calm, as if I were looking at a complete stranger passing by. I've been looking for you. What for? You're my fiancé. We were engaged. It was just an engagement. No marriage certificate. It's not legally binding. Sophia. Oliver's white shirt was still spotless and pristine. The way he looked with his glasses used to be what I liked the most. Now he stood before me, exactly as I used to like him. But so what? You left, and I thought about a lot. He said softly. What happened with Amelia? Yes, I handled it poorly. I only admired her academically, There was nothing romantic between us. I've already made things clear with her. She left for overseas 2 weeks ago. She won't be coming back. Sophia, I promise, nothing like that will happen again. Come home with me. The wedding venue is still reserved. We can get married anytime you want. And why would you think I'd go back with you? Because I used to like you? I looked at him and smiled. Oliver, haven't you figured it out yet? From the moment I left, you became nothing to me. Sophia, I know what happened hurt you. But I've really reflected. Nothing ever happened between Amelia and me. I swear. Does that matter? Oliver, your thing with Amelia. I don't care. Because I've already stopped loving you. That's impossible. We grew up together. Sophia, you've loved me for so many years, and yet that didn't stop you from applying for overseas aid work. Planning to leave right after our wedding, did it? Oliver's expression changed dramatically. How? How do you know that? I also know that you were going with Amelia, and if nothing went wrong, you would have built a new life abroad with her. And me? I would have stayed behind, in the dark, filially devoted to your family, taking care of everyone, draining my inheritance, until I was squeezed dry and kicked out. Isn't that right, Oliver? His face turned ghostly pale, as if he were staring at a ghost. But I didn't stop. I took one more step forward. If I'm not wrong, your mother's very ill. Isn't she? Oliver instinctively stepped back. How did you know? By now, she should have just been diagnosed. She was prideful, probably hadn't told anyone. So tell me, Oliver, did you come back because you truly regret what you did, and want to make it up to me? Or is it because you want a live-in maid, to care for your sick mother, and someone to hand over her inheritance, to plug your family's bottomless pit? How could you think of us that way? Oliver's face went pale. She raised you for over a decade. Even if she didn't do it perfectly, doesn't she deserve some credit? Sophia, the money your family took, more than repaid that kindness. Oliver, don't come looking for me again. I have nothing to do with the Oliver family anymore. And as for you, we are nothing. I walked past him toward the school gates, but he still refused to give up. Sophia, please, calm down. Think about it. We've shared so many years together. Can you really just let it all go? Yes, I've already let it go. And Oliver, you should too. Instead of pestering me here, I said, why don't you focus on making more money? Your family still has plenty of expenses ahead. Sophia, do you really have to be this heartless? I let out a small laugh. Oliver, when your whole family was conspiring to use me, did any of you feel even a shred of guilt? But Sophia, in the end we didn't actually hurt you. All of this, it's just speculation on your part. So what? Even if it was just speculation. All I did was kill off that possibility in its cradle. Is that not allowed? Sophia, we've known each other our whole lives. Can you guarantee that if you marry someone else, they won't try to take advantage of you? I laughed again. And what makes you think marriage is the only future I have? Chapter 15. Oliver stayed in the city for a full week. It wasn't until I called the police that he finally left. Reluctantly, he must have realized I truly wasn't going to look back. After he left, he never bothered me again. When I successfully got into grad school, a classmate from my hometown reached out to me privately. They told me the Oliver family's reputation was in ruins. People were saying they were ungrateful, cold-hearted, and had bullied the orphaned daughter of their benefactors. Rumor had it Oliver's mother got what she deserved. Now paralyzed in bed, Louise drifted through life, got into trouble, and ended up in jail for a few months. Abigail didn't get into college, started dating a local thug, and moved into his place just to avoid caring for her mother. The entire family now relied solely on Oliver, with skyrocketing medical bills, and a penalty fee from the failed villa purchase. Oliver's private savings were completely drained. He was in a miserable state. Even his old friends and classmates had all distanced themselves. When I heard this, I simply smiled. Without me, the walking blood bank, they really were struggling to survive. But honestly, what does any of that have to do with me? I had a house, a car, and plenty of savings. I could enjoy my student life without worries. Maybe one day I'd meet someone I liked. Maybe not. Even living alone wasn't so bad. The Oliver family's filthy swamp would never disgust me again. Later, I heard Oliver had abandoned his family and got back together with Amelia. They settled in Hooching. She gave birth to a son. It seemed like they were doing well, but just a few years later, Oliver came slinking back alone, tail between his legs. By then, the Oliver family had already sold everything they could. All that was left was a shabby little rental unit. Oliver's mother, without proper treatment or care, passed away last year. Luis fled to Myanmar to do telecom fraud. Whether he's alive or dead now, no one knows. Abigail married young, had 3 children, and now suffers constant domestic abuse. Oliver lives alone in that dingy apartment, drinking himself into oblivion day after day. The son Amelia gave birth to wasn't even his. Back then, she only got with him to find a cheap father for her child. Once he worked himself to the bone, raising that child, Amelia reunited with the real father and kicked Oliver out. When I returned to my hometown to visit my parents' grave on their death anniversary, I saw him once. He was only in his early 30s, but most of his hair had already turned white, reeking of alcohol. He sat lifelessly by the roadside, dazed and lost. People passing by looked at him with disgust. No one could have guessed he was once that dazzling, arrogant Oliver. I didn't feel any saintly pity for him, but still, I couldn't help but sigh, because when we were kids, Oliver used to be so good to me. But later, we both grew up, and we both changed. When I walked past him, it was like he recognized me. He stood up abruptly, flustered, but then, all of a sudden, he turned his back and covered his face. I pretended I didn't see him, even if I recognized him. I didn't stop. I just kept walking forward. Another spring had come, and once again, the world was filled with blooming flowers. I would never turn back. I would never forgive. I would simply keep walking, forever and ever, along my own path, through my own endless spring.